We are actually going to be talking about drainage patterns. Whenever you hear the term drainage patterns, let us take into consideration we are referring to the movement of freshwater reserves typically on the surface of the land masses. And these land masses can actually possess differences in topography or slope angle. So the flow of fresh water, right, in a specific directional pathway along a given topography or a given landmass. Students, the topography of the slope could also influence the velocity which these particular streams, right, may in fact flow across the landmasses themselves. And this is actually a very, very important thing. Okay, students, so by definition, what are drainage patterns? Drainage patterns are in fact those which are associated with the directional movement of water, right, on the surface of a landmass, which can actually give us a proper understanding in terms of the rock structure, the topography, and also the arrangement of streams, right, across the landmass itself. It should also be noted that drainage patterns can best be observed from an aerial view, right, which is actually a view from above. Now in today's video, I'd like to just focus on three main drainage patterns: dendritic, radial, and trellis drainage patterns. Alright folks, so let us begin with dendritic drainage patterns. Whenever we hear the term dendritic drainage patterns, we must bear in mind that the shape of this particular pattern from an aerial view would in fact have a tree-like characteristic. As you can see, the streams are in fact very, very branching in nature. All right, students, so from this particular image, we can actually see that this black stream here is actually the main channel. All right. And students, this main channel is sometimes known as the consequent stream. Okay, so keep that in mind for me, please. Now, if we have the actual upper region situated here and the lower region situated here, that means the flow of the water will generally be moving in this particular pathway. So we can see from the image on the screen the direction of the flow of the water, right? Look at the example or the arrows there per se. Now, if we were to look specifically at the blue, right, those blue lines or those blue streams, students, those blue streams are actually merging into the main channel. All right, and they are known as tributaries. Tributaries, again, they are in fact streams which merge into a main channel. All right, now at this point, I would like to highlight something very important here. Where two or more streams merge into one, for example, this region that I'm circling in brown, all right, where two or more streams merge into one, all right, that is actually known as a confluence. All right, they are known as a confluence. All right, because they have two different streams moving towards each other. They will unify at this particular junction here. All right, these junctions that I'm circling in brown. These are nice examples. So a confluence is in fact that junction where two or more streams merge into a unified flow. All right, just to reiterate very quickly in a form of a summary here, dendritic drainage patterns are associated with a very distinctive tree-like characteristic, right, where the streams or the tributaries merge into a main channel or a consequent stream. All right, these particular patterns are associated with flow of water moving from a upper region all the way down to a lower region. All right, and these branching streams gives us an understanding in terms of the variability with respect to the topography, also with respect to the types of rocks that may potentially exist in any given environment. This is in fact a very high view showing the dendritic drainage pattern which is associated in any given environment per se. These are in fact the streams, the main channel here, right, flowing all the way down, and at the sides we can see simple streams and whatnot merging into this particular path. All right, as you can see, it has a distinctive tree-like characteristic. Now at this point, I would like to highlight radial drainage patterns. Now students, radial drainage patterns are associated with areas which are said to be relatively elevated, where there is in fact a central elevated point, which is here, and you have other streams radiating or moving away, right, from this particular location, this particular central location. Observe the directionality of these particular streams. The arrows will highlight the direction to which they are moving. Now, this gives us an understanding that this little point in the middle is the central elevated peak or point. All right. Okay. And these lines, which are said to be in blue, all right, they will represent streams diverging from the central elevated point. Students, I really apologize for the terrible handwriting and the scrappiness. All right, but my apologies. Anyway, but these particular streams are associated with mountainous environments. All right, as you can see, this is the central elevated peak here, or the central elevated point. And the streams, obviously, from either direction would simply move down the slope itself. Now, when we take into consideration mountainous areas, we have to bear in mind also volcanic environments can be associated with mountainous environments as such. All right, and as in many instances, some areas where volcanoes are no longer functional in terms of their level of eruption and stuff like that, they become dormant, or perhaps they become essentially inactive. All right, these particular mountainous slopes, to which were in fact once volcanic environments, would become subjected to this type of pattern, which is in fact radial drainage pattern. All right, students, a nice example. I mean, there are many mountainous environments throughout the world, right? But this is in fact Mount Taranaki, which is situated in New Zealand. All right, look carefully from the screen. Look at the elevated peak in the center here, which is said to be the mount. All right, and obviously the flow of water will be moving down slope. All right, the water would actually respond to the influence of gravity, like every other thing. All right, and as a result, with the flow of water, you will have streams being created, erosion along these particular stream pathways as well. Look at the little striations or markings on the landmass itself. All right, these little markings are in fact areas or sections of erosion influenced by the flow of water, all right, down this particular volcanic area. Mount Taranaki is actually now a dormant stratovolcano. Now, last but not least, I'd like to talk about trellis drainage patterns. Now, from what we can observe on the screen here, these blue lines would actually represent the streams which are merging, all right, towards the main channel. The main channel is here in black. The arrow, right, will actually indicate that this region is the upper region, and obviously this will be the lower region. Hence the reason why it's moving from point A to point B. All right. Now, students, bear in mind for me that trellis drainage patterns are associated with areas where you have differences in terms of rock structures. Some rocks may, in fact, be more resistant than others. It is quite understandable that we can actually have a landmass where there's a very massive area of rocks which can be relatively very resistant. However, there would in fact be certain areas where the rocks themselves, some areas may have slightly weaker rocks than others. All right, streams generally flow right on a particular rock structure, which is in fact subjected to weaknesses. Hence the reason why the streams would erode the size of that particular rocks. All right, basically creating a channel or a passageway and stuff like that. However, we must bear in mind that the streams themselves are actually upheld or retained. The water is retained on the surface. This is the reason why an aerial view would allow us to see these particular streams on the surface of the land. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that trellis drainage patterns basically possess streams which basically merge towards the main channel, which is in black. As we can observe in the screen, there are in fact certain block-like formations, all right, between said streams. All right, and this is because of alternating bands of hard and soft rocks. So trellis drainage patterns are formed in land masses or areas where there are in fact alternating bands of hard and soft rocks. Differences in terms of the rock's integrity and also their resistance. All right, if you look on your screen here, you can actually see a very distinctive, a very beautiful array in terms of the streams themselves and the weaknesses in the land masses and whatnot. This is in fact the main channel here, sloping all the way down. And we also have the streams on the sides. And this gives us a very noticeable effect Right, from an aerial view, this shot was actually taken in Nova Scotia, in Canada, basically on the terrestrial environment close to the Bay of Fundy. All right, folks, so let us look at these particular blocks, right, which exist between the streams that actually merge towards the main channel. All right, these are essentially much more resistant rocks in comparison to those which would exist or hold the river channel itself. All right, but that is just a comparative base of understanding. Okay, we're just comparing two very distinctive rock types. All right, in any given environment. So in terms of when you say hard and soft rocks, that is a relative thing. All right, because rocks are basically consolidated structures. They are rigid, they are hard. But hard and soft, the whole concept of hard and soft, resistant, non-resistant, it is in fact a very relative term, or relative terms for that matter. All right. So I hope this was actually very beneficial to you all. Any questions, feel free to let me know. All right, students, you all keep good. Bye.